Good afternoon.
Good day.
Good day, mate. Yeah.
You're good.
My name is Clyde Tabor, and I am a neighbor for those of you who live in this area. I just live up the road in Foothill Ranch, California. And I lead a ministry that is called Visual Story Network. And we have about 200 organizations that we work with around the world, and we help them understand how to use media for the sake of the gospel. So whether that is in making movies, creating content for television, creating content for the computer, or creating content for the mobile device, which is a phone or a tablet. So that is my background. And so we do a variety of events and training and consultations around the world. One you actually may be interested in if you are interested in learning how your organization, maybe it's my phone, or church can use mobile devices. We have a consultation that will be held in December at the headquarters of Wycliffe Bible Translators in Orlando, Florida. And you can ask me for more information about that. But I'm here to both interview both of our guests and just to hear a little bit more, and then we want you to ask questions because they've shared many excellent ideas as to how we can all integrate social media into our work for the Great Commission. And so I'll start with, and I'll give you guys a minute to think about it. What are the top 3 things you would have a church or an organization that's relatively new? What are the 3 simplest things they could do? So I'll let you think about that while I summarize what you shared. Because DJ helped us understand that basically we can do anything through the internet and social media. Evangelism, teaching, fellowship, worship. He gave us the 7 ways that it can really expand and leverage our ministry. I really appreciated, Richard, what you had to say. And actually, Richard, you did give us 3 ideas, so I want to see if you have any more in terms of how do you even begin? Because the hardest step is the first step. And Richard, you already said, be creative, be willing to make mistakes, and get someone on your team who can help you make change. So if you have anything else, but I'm going to start with you, like what are the first things you would have a pastor or a mission leader do?
Okay, first 2 or 3 things I would suggest if a church or ministry is at ground zero and has no online presence. And if you don't show up on Google, you don't exist. I don't know how many of you have Googled your own name and see what's there. And it's shocking how little conversation there is going on about churches and ministries. So the first thing I would say is get a website. And I have built websites for ministries in a matter of an hour. There's a technology called WordPress, which is now running 19% of the entire internet. And so it's a very mature platform that started out as a blogging platform, but now is used to build websites. So get a website up. Second would be appoint a person and make it a part of their weekly schedule to create and produce fresh content onto that website. Now that's a pretty high bar, but you asked for 2 or 3 things, and I think those 2 are essential because you have to have real-time content in a 24/7 web world. The web is no longer just a brochure. It is an ongoing conversation with your constituents and essentially to the world. That's actually 2, but those are 2 pretty big ones.
And do you have anything else you want to add?
I guess one of the things that I could do as a bit of a plug if you wanted to, the SES site has been designed to give away to as many organisations that would like it. So if you want that SES, you can do a thing called have a widget on your website. And basically what a widget does is a widget allows you to go and take the entire 4,500 videos on your site, or you can literally tick the ones that you want and place them on your site. And basically, a widget integrates with your own website. So what it means is that it's hard enough to get people to come to your website. The last thing you want is, as soon as they come to your website, to click on the link that takes them away to your website. If you incorporated a widget onto your website, it means that they end up watching the video in a little square, but it always remains on your website. You don't lose anyone. And you can pick and choose the videos that you want, totally free. All of our stuff is totally free. The two things on there that I'll say to you is that you won't see CVC advertised on any of them. You won't see, and you'll never see a donate now button on there as well. We're not interested in raising funds, right? So you could have all of that. So that's one idea, right? The other idea is go and get some advice. Talk to people like this guy in the United States and others. Get some advice. Don't do what a lot of Chinese churches are currently doing. I had a pastor in China that said to me a couple of weeks ago when I was there, one of the biggest problems that he's got, and he's there training people at the moment as to how to use the media and how to do this. He said the biggest issue that's actually happening is that a Chinese church, a senior Chinese pastor, knows they've got to do something, so they will get one of their other pastors and say, right, you look after the social network, you look after it. And those people don't know what they're doing. And within 3 or 4 months, the 300 young people that they've got in the church have all gone, because they think, let's put some drums in. If we could just put some drums in the church, that'll make it younger and more young people will come. Or if we can make a big screen, that doesn't work. You need the right people to be able to advise you. So don't walk away from this conference thinking, I know I've got to do something, so let's just pick on someone on our team and do it. Go and find the right people or get the right advice, and then you'll end up doing it well.
All right, so we want to hear your comments and questions. I know you have various leadership roles, so if you have a question, please raise your hand.
We mentioned a lot about using Facebook and YouTube and all of the social media tools for reaching out. That's widely available here in the States. What if, but they're blocked in China and probably other places. What are some of the tools and methods that we'll be able to use to, for social media to reach people in China?
Directly into China.
Correct.
You guys could both probably comment on that.
Look, anything that you do in China is opening up a lot at the moment. We've never had, I tell a lie. We've had 2 videos of ours actually altered. We had one video where the Bible verse was at the end, and someone took the Bible verse off and let the rest go onto the social network in China. We had another video that actually had a Bible verse in the middle. Someone edited it and took the Bible verse out and joined it together and then let it go. Who does that? Right? I have no idea. But that 2 examples over the last 3 years is all we've had. I think you've got to be sensible about the content as well. Right? You've got to be meaningful and sensible to the Chinese authorities as well. We often say to the Chinese authorities, we actually had the Chinese embassy in Canberra come up and visit us at one stage, and we opened our books and we opened everything that we were doing, and they actually walked away and gave us a rubber stamp and said, you guys are harmless, you're fine. Right? But we were sensitive to everything. So I think the first thing is you've got to be sensitive. New media, incidentally, will never take over the church. All right? And so every one of those people that we talk about visiting us or coming to us with a question, we want to get them into the church, all right? And so we want to work closely beside the church. In fact, one of the verses, the key verses that we use is Ephesians 3:10, where Jesus said, God said, I will build my church. He never said, I'm going to build my video ministry. He never said, I'm going to build my CVC or my World Vision or Compassion or whatever. He never said that. He said, I'm going to build my church. The church, if you think about it, is probably the worst organisation in the world. There's political dramas in the church. There's faction fighting. There's this person that doesn't like drums, that person that doesn't like this. It's the worst organisation you could possibly think of in the world. But it's what God chose. And so we want to get people into the church. So to answer your question, be very sensitive, but never leave the fundamentals of building up the church. train pastors, do all those sorts of things, because it's the church that is ultimately the vehicle that God used, and it's the church in itself. Even though we have all of these other methods, it's the church itself that's actually growing in China. And it's the church that God is really blessing in China. So work very closely alongside the churches in China is also another thing.
I went to Beijing for the first time in my life this past March, so that was just 5 months ago, and I was only there for 4 days. But what little I experienced was was that China is a very different place. In one sense, hyper modern; in one sense, hyper ancient, and it's like an unstable environment. It's very hard to understand what the rules are. And the rules are changing all the time, and the rules are not consistently enforced. And it was weird being there, being very engaged on social media myself, that Twitter and Facebook and YouTube are all blocked. But inside the Great Firewall of China, there are equivalent media that's being used by Chinese people. Weibo has way more users than Twitter. And that is carrying conversations beyond government control, and the government is the way they're treating the home church and the way they're treating online media is, as long as you're not causing social unrest, they'll let you go, but they always reserve the veto button to crush something that they don't like. And I think it's going to take a particular creativity that's challenging for organizations. I think one of the principles that government is not comfortable with is organizations. So if you go in organically, you'll have a whole different approach than if you're an organization trying to broadcast. So if you can think of ways to train people who are on the inside and resource them and have them tell you what they need, I think you can get some really good traction on the ground that's viral and organic, rather than a broadcast mentality.
Excellent. Comments? Another question?
Just while people are thinking, I can actually share a story at the moment as to how social networks are influencing China and how they're changing China, and they're changing the Chinese government at the moment. I was in Chengdu not so long ago, and I was with one of the head guys of Campus Crusade for Christ, and he was just giving me a bit of a tour of the city of Chengdu. And as we were heading out of town, I noticed, I think it was 5 buildings that I commented on that were almost complete, that looked like miniature of the Nest. Do you remember the Nest, which was the stadium that they used for the Olympic Games, right, in Beijing? And they looked like miniature nests, right? And I said, wow, look at those. They just look like the Nest. And he said, yeah, they were designed like that. They've sat empty now for the last couple of years, 3 or 4 years or whatever. And I said, what was the story? And he said, really interesting story. He said they were being built at the same time that the Sichuan earthquake happened. And at the same time, they were built as government offices. And right at that time when the earthquake happened, there were so many people online in Chengdu that went beyond Chengdu, because the government weren't doing enough for the victims of the earthquake. They weren't providing. And so people were going onto social networks saying, Chinese government is giving us a tent to live in, right? Yet these 5 buildings costing millions and millions of dollars are going to house their own office people. It got such a hot potato for the Chinese government that they stopped building them. They then decided, right, that they would sell the buildings. No one wanted to buy them. No one wanted to buy them because they were such a political issue, all because of social networks in China, right, that actually stopped the government from building these buildings. And now, even now, the government are not going to use those buildings as office blocks. They're actually going to rent them out to businesses to go in that. Now, how did that happen? That happened because someone got onto a social network in China and said, I know some people in Sichuan at the moment that are living in a tent, and the government is not supporting them, yet they're building their own monstrous castle that they're going to live in. And that exploded on a social network, and so now the social networks are actually influencing the government's decisions. Would that have happened 5 years ago in China? Not on your life, right? But now it is. So the Chinese government understand now they've literally got to start listening to the people, because the young people in China want to have a say. They want to have a say. And they know, as you say, they've got the big red button that they can turn off, but they've got to let them have that say. And if they don't let them have that say, they know they'll end up with the riots on the streets like Egypt and those other places around the world. They know that that'll happen, right? They'll have the controlling power to, send in whatever to stop it, but there will never ever be another Tiananmen Square. And the reason there won't be is because of that. The pictures would be out to the rest of the world within seconds, and they know that. All right, I haven't got inside information, but you think about it logically. They know it. If I know it, they certainly know it. All right, and so, but they're listening to the people a lot more in China, which is really encouraging. So because of that, there's a real window of opportunity for us to get in there more than we've ever had in our lifetime.
All right, we've got a question here. And if you have a question or a comment, just raise your hand so we can be ready for you. Please.
Okay, thank you. Last weekend, some Hong Kong Christian TV leaders, they came to me, and they came to a fellowship with me in order to establish a theological and education related entity in USA. So, well, sounds very good. But however, I noticed the same, same organization. They have done a lot of things related to the internet, related to the TV station, related to a lot of networking things for more than the past 10 to 20, even more years. However, I noticed one thing, maybe we did not really pay that much attention, because not only the Christian, they study all the messages from us, but also the non-believers, they also want to watch. Well, in positively speaking, no problem at all. But the problem is, in case there's something, touch their interest, touch their benefit, maybe they will have some negative things will attack us.
I'll have one comment, and it's maybe an indirect answer to that question, and that is, we live now, because of social media and the internet, in a very transparent age. And so if that is the case, that everything that we do, the things that we say, the things that we preach will be, and I can't remember who said it, they will be permanent, they will be instant, permanent, and global, then all the more it is important to be men and women and leaders of integrity. So if your hands are clean and if your heart is pure, you have the complete freedom, in the direction of the Spirit to go as He leads you. But be very aware that if you have anything that has a cloud of suspicion over it, that cloud will rain and people will find out about it, because that is the world in which we live. And frankly, that's not a bad thing. I mean, it's a powerful thing. If we, in fact, are people of the light, we should, in fact, want to walk in the light, and the light to be able to expose all things. So I don't know if that's a very direct answer, but that's my first thought.
Yeah, if I could summarize the question, I think you're trying to ask, what do you do with criticism and negative feedback? Well, the internet gives a voice to everybody, so negative feedback and criticism will come. And what Christian ministries tend to do is they stay silent rather than speaking